Hello, I'm Rebl Risty, and welcome to Revolutionize Your Marketing with AI. I'm here today with Max Bernstein, and we're going to talk about AI and how to change your mindset and how to get what's in your brain out of your brain so that you can use it. Max, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You and I are in, I think, a couple of different AI groups, and I've just been fascinated with what you're doing at the level that you're taking AI. And I love your you're trying to help people change the way they think about AI. But before we get into all of that, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on here. This is exciting. So, quick background, quick 2 or 60 second background of me. I am a lifelong marketer. So, I started about 7 years in experiential marketing. So, traveling all over the country, putting on events. And then I went into pet healthcare and worked in brand management inside of pharma with some of the bigger flea, tick, and heartworm brands inside of pharma. And then I worked as a brand manager as a baby brand in the CPG space. And this was all happening up until COVID. And so when COVID happened, I really got into the online marketing world and caught that bug and got really big into helping a lot of online businesses and service-based businesses, especially during that time. And I ended up just never going back into the office. Once I got a little taste of what that life could be like, I couldn't go back. And so have been doing part of that full time ever since on my own. About 2 years ago, I started playing around with AI. I've always been obsessed with tools and just playing with the different tools and experimenting and learning. And with AI, there's a new tool every day. So it's just like a Christmas morning every morning for me to play around with.
I'm glad
Ton of
you
fun.
think so. I think most people are completely overwhelmed.
It's Yeah, I have so much fun with it. I mean, I spend now probably 6 or 7, maybe more hours every single day with AI, just exploring and learning and building and talking to people and making connections and networking, and it's just incredible.
Awesome. So if somebody is, I would say most of us are overwhelmed and don't have 7, 8 hours a day to explore. Where would you recommend somebody get started? Like, how do they change their mindset?
I So for me, it's within the LLMs themselves. So within ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Grok or any of those, they all do pretty much the same thing, and they're all so powerful. So what I would tell someone is to get really good at one, because then once you get really good at one, you start building that foundational knowledge and that foundational expertise. And so when a new tool comes along, it's not that overwhelming anymore, and you're able to use that knowledge transfer onto other tools, and those won't be as scary to you anymore as well. And each of the tools also have their own nuances with how they work and the little things they could do. So instead of trying to conquer all of those at once, just get really good at one, and you'll learn the different capabilities it has and the different way it works, and setting up projects or setting up GPTs. I'm sure as if you keep up with this stuff, you'll see even the different models are always changing. So just trying to keep up with all the models inside of ChatGPT can be a full-time task. So just sticking with one to get really good and getting that foundational knowledge with one will help you out a ton.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think for me, it's chat. That was the first one out, and that's just really the one that stuck with us. Obviously, I play in Claude a little bit. I don't use Gemini as much, and it's a shame because we're on the Google Suite as an agency, and it's already included in everything we have, but I just haven't gotten there. When someone does finally get comfortable, and I have sat in on a workshop with you, and you go pretty deep, what is kind of a next step for somebody? Like, okay, I'm starting to play with chat. How do I, get to a point where I'm like, what can I really use this for?
Sure. So for me, everything I do now, I create a project for. So if you're familiar with, they all have the different project features. And so, ChatGPT and Claude, they both have projects, or
Mhm.
Gemini has gems, Grok has workspaces, and they all do kind of the same thing. But just for me, it's like almost getting very organized within my projects. So then when I start a task, I can go straight to that, and that project is then trained just on that task that I'm working on. So not only does it help me with my crazy attention and going off in all these different directions, I know when I come to this project, this is what I'm working on. And I can see all the different chats, and that project is then trained on that exact task that I'm working on. So it'll have the custom instructions, it'll have all the different knowledge files in there. And so when I'm going in there and I'm playing, it'll be very customized for what I'm looking to accomplish. And each of these projects now are getting so much better. I mean, Claude just, I think, up the amount that the capacity that you could put in, I think by 10 times. You can start integrating Google Docs inside of it too. So it's directly connected to your Google Drive. So anything like any updates that you're making inside of your Google Docs that are connected to that project will be updated in real time. Those can be shared across projects. So you almost start to develop your own system. So I guess, level one is getting really comfortable. And then level two for me is starting to develop these systems around AI where you're actually working with these projects, or the projects are working together to really start compounding over time and building your knowledge base over time and pulling out different insights.
Yeah. No, I think that is so true. Like every week, it just seems like they're getting smarter and better. And just to clarify, when you talk about projects, I know there's Claude projects, which is their customizing, and then there's custom chat GPTs, and then there's chat projects. So you're actually talking about the chat projects where you can have
Chat
folders.
projects. So yeah. So
Okay.
yep. And so the difference between the two is a custom GPT, I like to think that is more of something you're doing on a repetitive time that's just a one-off task. So when you go into a custom GPT, every time you go into it, that chat's going to start fresh, right? Like you're not going to have your chat history there. You're not going to have that. And you can also share those with other people. So a lot of times people use the chat GPTs to create those as tools to then share with other people, right? Versus the projects, I like to think of those as much more internal tools where I'm working with my data or a client's data that I'm working on the project with them. And I'm building up that knowledge file over time, and then I'm doing more there versus sharing that.
Yeah. So earlier we were talking, and we were talking about this idea of, if you're a professional, you're a specialist, how do you have all these great knowledge in your head, and how you can get it out and actually use AI to benefit from, or helping you get organized and finding those little nuggets and gems of what's in your head. Maybe before we jump into how you do it, tell us a little bit, like, how did you come up with this whole concept of how to pull things out of your head, your meetings, and find those nuggets that are really valuable?
Yeah, so it started when I was doing just one-on-one consulting with people for AI and just helping them use it better in their business. And it was going really well, but I was honestly, I was winging a lot of it, where I would just go in and people would tell me about their business and what they're working on, and I was able to help them. And they were having a lot of really good results, but I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I actually doing in here? What is resonating? How can I, make this a part of a repeatable process? All those different things. And so I started taking all the different transcripts from all those and running a whole bunch of different prompts against them and looking for patterns across it. Like what are people saying over and over and over again? And so the overarching theme that I came out of this was people just kept saying that I think differently about AI. The way I talk about AI, the way I interact with AI, the way I think differently about AI. And so I started coming up with just different principles and a methodology with how I think about AI. And when I started developing that, it all sounded great as a almost like a keynote, or again just principles. And I couldn't figure out, like, how would I want to make this tangible for somebody, right? How can I actually start applying this for other people? And so I pretty much just reverse engineered that process I just did. And it was going into the transcripts of working with the different clients and pulling out these different insights and these different things, because inside of those, there's just so much information inside of all the transcripts that you get with your clients, or that you have in team meetings, or that you have everywhere, that I think a lot of people just ignore, right? Like,
Yeah.
right now, everyone who's got Zoom or Fireflies or Fathom or any of these, you're getting the summary in real time, right? But so many people now just take that summary and they send it back to the client, or they send it to the team, or they take it and they store it somewhere and they don't do much with it. But if you approach that completely differently and you start looking at those as really rich data sources and applying really deep, detailed, and customized prompts to each of those, the amount of data you could pull out of them is just incredible.
Yeah, it makes sense. I know we started saving just our client meetings in a project in chat. So we do file them. Although I have to admit, I don't think and we usually get action items out of them, but I don't know that we've done much more than that.
Yeah. No, it's a gold mine of information for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, like, what are the results, or what some of the outputs you've gotten?
Out of those, so I like to set it up as almost like a two-part or almost like a three-part structure of when I'm looking at these transcripts, right? So to me, when you just have a transcript, that's just a whole bunch of noise out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 80% of that transcript is probably just a bunch of back and forth conversation, a lot of stuff that the AI almost has to sift through to clean up. So when I look at a transcript, I look at it almost, how can I start looking for very targeted signals from all that noise that's in there, and then start collecting these signals within that noise that then I can use and start compiling. So for instance, if I had a call with somebody a few weeks ago, and if you'd have asked me after the call and said, what were all the problems that was discussed during that call? I could probably tell you two or three, but then when I ran like a really like good prompt, a really customized prompt against that, it gave me 12, right? And so now if you go back and you think of that, for just that conversation, I was able to pull out 12 different times that client expressed a problem. With an AI too that is set up for this, is you can not only take out the problem, but you could now that match that to map that to a solution. So now you now have 12 problems mapped to a solution with their exact language around that problem. Now taking that one step forward, all problem plus solution plus the customer language around that is a new offer, is a new framework, is content, is insights into your business of how you could help them better. And so there's just so much stuff. And that's just one example from one call with one prompt, right? Of just
Yeah.
around problem solution frameworks.
That's amazing. Well, I know you said that you might give us like a little peek into your signals process and how it works. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought I would share a couple slides to kind of set this up, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
And then we'll get our hands dirty with a few things here.
All right.
So let's jump into this. Let's go to here. And so this goes to a little bit of what I talked about here. And can you see my screen okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Great. So I like to call this the expertise paradox. And I'm sure you and people listening, they are experts. They work with a lot of experts. And if you know anything, like the better you are at something, the less you can explain it, right? And there's a lot of neuroscience
Yeah.
behind why this actually is, right? Like our brains, the way they work is they like to chunk information into patterns, into single units in our brain. That way, just so as a way to organize all this stuff. And so a lot of times you are actually operating from an unconscious competence. You're able to get to an answer without even realizing how you know the answer to that. So many times, I hear this all the time, and it happens to me too. You'll get to a solution, and someone will be like, "How do you know that?" And you're just like, "I just know," right? Like I just
Right.
from
Yeah.
years of doing this, I just know. But it's coming down from the way your brain is actually processing this information. And so that's what we talked about earlier. In getting this out of your head, AI helps you to extract that information, and a lot of times this is happening within these calls with your clients. You're solving problems for them. You're going over your processes without actually realizing this is what you're doing, right? So if you think about it, this is almost like if you're familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, this is like the Dunning-Kruger effect reverse, where experts are actually consistently underestimating just how smart they are because all this pattern recognition to them just feels obvious, right? Like, again, it just goes to, you just can't explain how you know something. You just know it in the back of your mind. Where again, AI now is able to look at these conversations and help you extract that so it can be a repeatable process over time, and start creating some intellectual property for you.
So
Taking it one step further and a little more behind the science behind it, there's something called Miller's Law, where it's the 7 plus or minus 2 limitation. So our brain, the way it works is you can really only track up to 7 things at a time. So if you think about that, when you're trying to put these patterns together and try and map this problem to another client's problem over there, or these different solutions or frameworks or different things are going on, our brain can only process and hold so much at a time. Versus now, when you get AI to help you, there's just so much out there that's actually happening that you're not able to even pick up on. So when you combine the unconscious competence plus the pattern recognition that AI can help you with when applied the right way, it becomes super, super powerful, right?
yeah.
Not only that, is it can see in dimensions that we can't even perceive, right? Like we're looking at things in almost a 2D pattern recognition, where we're looking at stuff as problem solution, which is very linear thinking, or cause and effect, very sequential thinking, question and answer, very binary processing, where AI can see in 100 dimensions simultaneously, where it's looking at linguistic behavior, emotional patterns, latent connections, the non-obvious relations. So now when you think of that applied to all these different dimensions, applied to a transcript, in the conversation, in the emotions it picks up, in the relationship factors it's picking up, and all that different things combined, it gets super, super powerful of what it's pulling out. Like just what it can actually extract just from one conversation where you thought it was just something that's getting stored away on your hard drive or in a cloud. It's already there. It's not, all you need is just a little bit of a system put in place to now start extracting that, and you can do so much with it.
Got it. And so speaking of a system, and I might be jumping ahead, is there a
No,
way to just automatically put your transcripts into chat or pull them over into somewhere where AI can pick it up?
yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things you could do. You can set up some automations, so where it goes somewhere, and you could work with what's called MCP servers, where it's reading your Google Drive. But the easiest thing to do is making sure you're just getting it out of Zoom or whatever and just copy and pasting it into Claude and then running prompts against it.
Got it.
Now, what I'll show you is there's ways to set up your projects or set up different things where it's preloaded with a lot of this information and a lot of information about you, so it knows what to do with that transcript as it comes in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so let's go for a couple other things I think will help this make sense, and then we'll jump in and get our hands dirty. So you talk about the value that's actually buried in this stuff. So I like to talk about this like the value burial phenomenon, right? So our current reality is a lot of times we're solving a problem, we're moving on, and we're forgetting how we solved it, which causes us to recreate solutions, which means we're wasting a lot of that expertise and potentially even undercharging for that because we're not valuing it as much, right? And which again, just by because of this, you're going to time-based pricing, capped income, and burnout because you're doing this over and over again. Versus if we could set up an expertise engine where you're solving a problem, you're extracting the method from that each time, you're building frameworks around that, you're packaging that up as intellectual property, you're letting that compound over time, that's where you're going to start getting into premium pricing, right? And that's where it starts getting super valuable. And so what AI is so the three layers of this, if you think about it, layer one is just a surface level value of what everybody sees. This is the explicit advice that you're giving, the obvious problems you're solving, the immediate outcomes that are happening, what gets captured in the meeting notes. But this is just by the nature of what it is. It's easily replicated by others. There's no real proprietary advantage of this, which means it's going to be commoditized by AI, which inevitably is going to lead to pricing pressure. But with AI, what it's able to do, it's going to allow you to extract so much more. So how you're diagnosing the problem it's going to look into that. So your diagnostic methodology, or why you chose the solution that you did, which goes into your solution frameworks, when this approach works, so your application criteria, who's going to benefit the most from this, your ideal client profile. And so, I'm sure you are, and I'm sure probably people in your audience are, when you start combining these things together, this is what's going to come down as the unique mechanism, your unique way of solving something. These combination of different things coming together is what's going to make you unique and start helping you develop your own intellectual property.
Got it. Okay. Wow.
And so the last part of this, of what actually becomes intellectual property, that is your universal principles behind your methods, the patterns that work across context, the symptoms that others can't replicate, or the system that others can't replicate, the philosophy that guides all decisions. And so when you look at, if you like formulas, the IP creation formula is just repeated pattern plus universal principle plus unique perspective equals valuable intellectual property, right? And so when you see a formula like this, and if you're thinking about it in terms of AI, this formula, you just need to tell AI to help you find these different things in what you're doing, and you're naturally going to start creating just valuable intellectual property that you could use for your marketing, use to build your business, use to help your clients as well.
Wow. And so this is based on some science and data. How did you come up with these three layers? I'm just curious. And how is this part of the process that you did initially to?
Yeah, it's part of the process, and it's going back and forth and figuring out how I got to where my end solution, and almost reverse engineering the process. So I usually approach things two different ways, especially with AI. Is I'll see something and I'll try and reverse engineer it. So I'll watch it what somebody did, or I'll look at a result that I just got and then go backwards and say, like, how did I get there? Let's reverse engineer the process. AI is very good at helping you with that. The other way I'll do that is I'll look at the first principles of this. So what am I trying to solve? And let's look at actually what are the first principles of this problem? What actually makes up, what is true about this? And then how do we then recreate it from that? And so that's how you start building a really solid foundation from the beginning and then building up from there.
This is great. Yeah, and it makes sense as you're laying it out.
Yep. And so I'll just give you one more slide and then we'll dive in. But this just goes to show you that all this expertise that you have, it's all there, but it's just invisible to you right now. So we're not, while it looks like we are creating, this is already there. AI just lets you see it. It brings it to light. And it brings it to light in a structured way that you could then help your clients with better, or build your business around, right? Like it says in these slides, you already have it. You just have a hard time articulating what that actually is. And a lot of times your clients could see this because they could see you work and they could see you getting results. But it's all currently just trapped inside your head. It's invisible. It's unsystemized. It's undervalued. And so within systems and within the right prompts and with the right frameworks, you can start pulling this out from each conversation. And the beauty of that is the more you do it, the more it builds over time, and the more you can refine it, make it better, look for patterns amongst all that data, and create better and better stuff. So it's almost like a living intelligence model where it just gets smarter and smarter over time.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So should we dive in, or do you got any questions so far?
And so, and what you're going to show us, this whole process is kind of what you do to set up yourself. And you keep bringing up transcripts. Are you pulling in every transcript from every meeting? Do you have to edit those transcripts before you put them in?
So I'm doing it for just about every meeting now. And so like it's either an end of the day ritual or, I set up almost a Notion Kanban board of, it goes into here, it goes into my Notion board and like what needs to be processed still. And you just move it across the board. Like what needs to be processed, good. I know it's done. If it's just something super quick, like, and I don't think there's probably stuff in there, I probably won't process it. But definitely, almost every client meeting I have, it gets processed and it gets put into a project. So I just know that there's so much stuff that even if that feels like it got that like the meeting like just went quick and I feel like there wasn't that much that happened, I'm always still shocked about how much gets pulled out of it. I mean, I was in one yesterday where I was just facilitating two groups meeting that were doing different stuff. Somebody in the direct to consumer space, and then somebody who was brilliant has some AI software. And so I was just making the connection between the two. So I was almost a fly on the wall during that entire meeting. So if you think about it, even afterwards, it may look like I didn't feel like I had much to add to that meeting, so I was just letting them meet. But then I was able to take that transcript, and even from that transcript, I was able to create an entire report after that meeting of all of the areas of opportunity I think both of them were missing, and were other opportunities where I think they could collaborate. Right. So like that is what like just one additional way where normally that meeting would have ended and I would just be like, okay, guys, good luck. I hope you work together. Versus
Right?
now I could, add it into the system and just add so much more value to those people without really just taking, another 10, 15 minutes out of my day.
And that you did because you had to run them through your system, right? You couldn't just take that to chat and say, hey, give us a report for.
I mean, you could, you just got to make sure you have it all comes down to what you ask it, right? So if you know the right prompts, absolutely, you could talk to the transcript and you could pull that information out. So yeah, it's all about having the right prompts. It's all about having knowing how to talk to AI the right way and ask the right questions and get the right data out of it for sure. All right, so the way I do it, and I will go quickly over this because I just want you to understand. I'm not going to get into the deep details in the data because I don't want you guys to run away here. But the way I set it up to is I like to look at everything. We talked about first principles, and I think I've showed you this before, and it looks super confusing. But I just wanted to explain to you how I think about data too.
Okay.
So even when I'm looking at a transcript, and if you can't see this on the screen, what I've done is I've laid out an entire what's called data taxonomy, so a way to start structuring the data. So before I even bring a transcript in, I like to look at it and say, once again, going back to first principles, what's even available from a data perspective inside of a transcript, right? And so if you think about that from first principles, you could even think, okay, from a consultant and a client, there's going to be two parallel knowledge streams that are going on at the time.
Right.
Just establishing that in advance for the AI helps it to start structuring it in the right kind of way.
Okay.
And then you start going, okay, the next level is let's look at all the fundamental data types that would be available in any transcript. And then you just keep going and extrapolating from there and on. And what you're doing is you're creating a very structured way for AI to actually look at the data and start pulling the data out of this transcript out in a very, very structured way. Now, what I do is I take this very complicated, messy looking thing and I customize this for each person. So if when I'm working with them, I have them fill out some information and I work with AI to customize their own data taxonomy so that, I know it sounds very complicated, and so I don't want to go too deep into it, but it really isn't when you think about it. It's just, all it is you're setting up your own custom instructions, but in a very customized data way and giving AI very clear guidance on how to do that.
Give me an example of like how you customize it for a client.
So basically, for this, for instance, we have all this information in here, right? So all these different ways of the four fundamental data types, how those fundamental data types apply to the consultant and the client, the levels of extraction. And what I do is once I created this kind of general outline, I went to AI and I said, okay, to customize this for somebody, what is all the information you're going to need to know for them? It gave me all the information you need to know them. And I said, okay, now how can I put that into survey form to have them fill out and give to me? So people actually will fill out, a basic 12, 15 question survey. It gives me enough data I need from them to give back to AI. And what I'm basically doing is creating really customized custom instructions for their project and to inform what type of prompts I want to create for them at all different levels.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
we're getting just very structured in our how we're getting AI to look at the data, what to look for within the data, and just for that person in particular. So who they are, who their clients are, their avatar, what problems are they solving, et cetera. So when it's going in to look at those transcripts, it's going in with a very direct, targeted purpose instead of just guessing a lot.
Yeah. And I like how you used chat to ask you to come up with the questions that you need to ask the client. Yeah.
You should always, yeah. When you start thinking about AI, one, when in doubt, ask AI
Yes.
for the
Yes.
question. But use AI to help you get better results with AI. So just like that example, right? Like how can you use the data that I'm giving you, or what do you need from me to then fill out the form to get
Yeah.
this from the people?
And
So
it's such
always
a
using AI
yeah.
to get better results.
It's
Yeah.
such a great tip. I was just doing an interview actually before our call today, and he was like, "Would you have tips on prompting?" And I said, "Yeah, ask chat."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. That's a great tip.
So this is just kind of giving you an idea. Like pretty much all I'm doing is really just customizing the AI for the person that's going to be using it and extracting the data from them. And so as you move from there, what I like to do is from this taxonomy, and this is the basic flow, if you can see it here. So step one is that they fill out a form, they fill out their data taxonomy, and I use that to create a series of prompts that they will then use to extract information from the transcript. So we have our extraction prompts. What is this first layer of data that we're going to extract from AI? Then next, now that we have all that data, what can we create with it? So it's the offers, it's the frameworks, the just different pieces of intellectual property. Then we also create pattern prompts. So now that we have all this data together, how can we look for patterns across that data so we can be much smarter in our business and we help make much more informed decisions or thinking 2 steps ahead, etc. And then we bring it all into Claude and let it all work together. And so that's why I was going to show you kind of how this all works in real time
Okay.
too.
Yeah, we'd love to see that.
So if you think about, so this is a project I set up for this, and let me go ahead and grab this. So when you think about, if you're familiar with just a normal Claude project, this is basically what it is. And what I've done here is I've put in all of my signal prompts in here. I put in all of what I call those asset prompts. So what do you do? What are some of the things you create? All of the pattern, and then context about myself, and then detailed custom instructions as well. And now I could literally come in here every time, and I could just say hi, and I'm going to just show you how this runs.
Okay.
Because of how this is all programmed now, and this is something I work with people and I set this up for them all. So it's calling me Sarah, so it's just the mock one I put in here.
Okay. I'm like, "Who's
You can
Sarah?"
see how this is all. Yeah, this is I created a mock project for the purpose of this, and so I created a marketing consultant working from a lot of SaaS expertise.
Okay.
And so because it's a new project, it's saying since you're starting off fresh, let me zoom in on this for you. Let me offer you the strategic pathways for turning your conversations and insights into monetizable IP. And so it looks into it and is saying, okay, we could do all of these pattern analysis, PLG transition intelligence. This is very specific for this person. This PLG is very specific to her brain and what she's working on. Same thing with this, the decision architecture. This is very specific to her. For you, this would look completely different, but because we set it up in a customized way, it's going to be looking across her data for these certain things.
Interesting.
It's going to be looking at different framework building options for them. It's going to be looking at different ways to build her IP. It's going to look for different things they could do within file management, looking at her portfolio, looking for gaps in her framework library, et cetera, et cetera. What would be most valuable to you right now? I could just say, I just have this transcript from a client. What can I do with it? So this is so now once the system is set up, you can see this is just plug and play, right?
Yeah.
I just took a transcript, I just copy pasted it in here, and it'll run and do everything that we just spent 30 minutes talking about. It'll do it automatically.
Okay. So all of the prompts and everything are the structures already uploaded.
It's already
And
pre-programmed.
this is a Claude project, correct?
And this is a Claude project. So this would work the same as if you did it in a ChatGPT project or any of the others. There are some different ways that reasons I like Claude, but for the purpose of this, they all kind of work the same.
Got it.
So she said, tier 1 signal gold mine detected. So this is absolutely loaded with premium extraction opportunities. Jennifer just gave you a masterclass demonstration of your expertise across multiple high value frameworks. So then it starts looking at these different extraction opportunities. So this PLG sales evolution method, that it's identifying an actual method within a transcript that she just explained to her client. So even though she didn't maybe say, here's my method for X, it knows to go in there and look for a sequence of events that she's explained something that now it's showing her, look, you may not have done it in like set it out right that this is your method,
Right.
but you have a method within this. Let me help
And
you
is
build it
it
out based on what you
also
said.
then referring, so if she has multiple transcripts in here, is it also referring back to her other transcripts?
If she, yeah, depending on what she asked Claude. So for this one, we just said, here's one transcript. What can I do with this, right?
Okay.
And so for the purpose of this, since we are just sharing this one, we're just focusing on that one within, but also with a lot of custom information about her. But you could also see like it's got the hybrid intelligence system that, all these different things that she could start creating with this, and it gives her options of what to do. So option one, dig deep into this one extraction, use this signal extractor, which is one of her prompts that's inside of there, to systematically capture your three-phase methodology, motion clarity, framework, and implementation approach. Or you could do this. So you could see just in this, it was like a 20, 30-minute transcript. It's able to start pulling out all these different ideas, right? And so as you start doing this, so we could just say, option one, I'm going to say this to show you. So it's
What's
just
an
going to start now. It's just
artifact?
going to, so an artifact is something that's specifically within Claude. And as it comes up, I will show you. So as you saw here, as it open this up on the right, Claude artifacts are, it's kind of like the canvas inside of ChatGPT, right? It's the thing it's
Oh,
creating
okay.
is it's almost like internal knowledge file that you could then start working with. And so we'll let this run right now. But you can see it's building out like an entire program for her based off of that conversation she just had.
And it's interesting that
Now
it
it
gave
doesn't
it
mean you should,
pricing. Is it also
yeah,
somehow basing that off of her, or is it pulling
yeah. It's
data?
basing it off that initial conversation, that intake form that she
Ah,
filled out,
okay.
so it knows more about her, kind of where like, her industry pricing, more types of stuff that she offers, etc. So then it's able to. I mean, as you can see, it's giving it some crazy insights and very specific things. And so as it's going, so this is just creating a framework for her, which is really cool. So core problem solve, unique solution, target market, investment range. So what you just created. Now, what I could do here is I could have further conversations and build this out further, right? I
Hmm.
can go straight in here and like you would, I think it's still running. It takes a while. Okay, now it's done. You can go in here and you can just edit stuff. So I could go here and hit improve and say, no, can we focus on another problem right here? And it'll edit it in real time. But to your point of how you start using this to build over time, what I would do straight from here is because it's an artifact, I could just hit file, copy to project. Now this PLG to sales evolution method, if we go back and look at her project, it's inside of her project. So now the system's getting smarter. Now the next transcript comes in and it'll have this to reference as it starts creating more and more stuff.
Okay, interesting. That's
Yeah, it's
that's pretty
super
incredible.
cool. Yeah. And so yeah, and then you can get more and more advanced with this stuff with how you're connecting this project to other projects and knowledge files across projects and so much you could do in these artifacts too. This was just released from Claude. The artifacts here, where those artifacts you could actually turn into interactive things in real time that you could actually move.
Oh, show
So
me.
for
I've
instance,
not seen this.
yeah, so it's super cool. So that they've always had this capability. They just really started promoting it yesterday, so on June 25th. But for instance, I could say, what are some interactive artifacts I can create? So many times, like, as I'm preparing presentations for clients or doing different things, and even if I'm just doing a competitive analysis report, right, I will create different, like, I'll create an interactive competitive intelligence report that they could actually click through in real time. And it is a live site that they could actually use that gets created just so quickly. So, I mean, we could build any
Doing
of
from
these
creating an artifact here?
from creating an artifact here, just straight
Okay.
from Claude.
I am
So let's create one. Let's create number two.
okay.
And now it's going to take a second because it's got to actually code the whole thing, but it's going to do it all. It's wild. Let her run for a second.
Great. This is crazy. And then does it create a, so it's giving you the code and then so I see publish.
Yep.
All right. This is really
Yeah.
interesting. I haven't seen this yet. So this is
Yeah,
great.
so this is super cool. So I mean, I was creating another course last night, and I was thinking, okay, what are the different ways? And I could show you. So we'll let that go because I'll show you kind of different ways. Like I'm even thinking about this. So my artifacts published. So I'm creating to make this my process better. I'm digging really deep into frameworks, right?
Okay.
So how can I make better frameworks? So if you look here, so we look published, copy a link. So I can actually embed this inside of my framework course now that I created this almost immediately, where people could put in the different frameworks that they're creating in here, like as a
Huh.
live thing tool. It could
Uh-huh.
select the framework type, it could put what it does, you put the components, you could add different components in here. And this makes more sense in the course. And you could analyze your framework combination and create new frameworks. So like as I'm teaching a concept, I could actually create tools that go inside my course
Oh my
to
gosh,
help
this is
them
great.
explore and really build it out even more. So let's
Got
see.
it. And then that's public if you share the link.
If you share the link,
Yep.
or you could take the code and either give it to the developer, or there's actually pretty simple ways where you could just embed the code into things to make it live.
And
But if
can
you,
you
yeah,
improve upon it? So if you're in that view, are you able to edit and
yep.
okay.
So if you look here, like the Claude, someone made a Claude writing assistant that you could do based off whatever, and what you do is just hit customize, and you can make it your own. You could just talk to it like, do you want to change the topic? Do you want to update the style? So I could say update the color scheme to blue. So really with AI now, one of the biggest lessons is like our imagination is the bottleneck on everything we do. You can do just so much now so quickly. It's just, and look, like you'll see, it's just popping up.
This is crazy. Okay, I'm gonna be playing with this.
Pretty wild. So look at, so the
And
color,
then
I mean,
that's
that was just a
true.
small tweak, but you can see like in real time, it's doing this stuff,
Yeah. Amazing.
right? And so let's see. So look at, so remember we talked about building that
Yep.
calculator? Just build a calculator
Look
for
at
us.
that.
And so I could take this and I could publish this and calculate your strengths. So like, whatever you're teaching or whatever you're, building for your own content or whatever, you could just build these tools now so customized to what you're working on that you could then give to clients, give to your audience, whatever, your internal team, use for yourself. You could solve your own problems using this stuff. It's just super, super cool. And while that looks really pretty and it looks great, if you look at the back end, I'm not a coder at all. So this means nothing to me, but I know this and I know I can do all this. But what this calculator accomplishes: authority positioning, shows us a lead generation engine. So you could set this up as a lead gen type thing. It's talks about your unique differentiators. How do you strategically use this? So website integration, speaking content, sales processes. So like now again, it goes back to our imagination. It's just it's really really good. That's why I have so much fun playing with this, and that's why I am up till 2:30 every night, just going down rabbit holes and doing all sorts of stuff.
I don't know how you're
It's so much
awake.
fun.
This is awesome, Max. This is really great. I'm definitely going to play with this. I would say this is great. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I mean, you
You're
opened
welcome.
my eyes right here. And I'm sure my viewers and listeners are going to be fascinated by what you're doing. Any last thoughts for the audience? I feel like I did sit in your one workshop and it was a bit over my head, but I am fascinated by what you're doing. Just any last thoughts for my audience on, what they should be thinking about AI?
No, I would just say stay curious. When you get confused by AI, you're not getting the answers you're looking for, just go back and put it back on AI. What am I not asking you? What do you need to know more from me about? What are some additional questions I'm not thinking of? And not only that, but just never take the first output AI gives you. Once you get that output, always just think, okay, what is the next step? What else can I do with this? How can I expand this? How can I do a lot more with it, etc. So yeah, there's just so much cool stuff.
Very cool. Well, Max, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, I know, are you doing the Signal workshop still? They can
Yeah,
sign up for
so I'm
that.
doing Signal Workshop, and what I've transitioned because of the level of customization on that. I have a group together. We just did a cohort of 15 people. They're just finishing up now, a ton of fun, and I actually work with everybody one on one to make sure because the first round through it does look a little bit complicated, and so I actually set it up for everybody with them one on one, give them all the attention, spend the time, and really make sure like I handhold them throughout the entire process to make sure they get it completely customized for themselves, so that they can go into Claude and just work like that of just uploading a transcript and it just runs for you. But I show them under the hood too, so they understand how it works if they ever want to change it later. So yeah, I am running that, and then for those, if you don't want to set up a system, I have 3 prompts that I set up on this site too. I can give for this too of just level extraction prompts, so like one asset, one signal prompt, and one pattern prompt that I'm happy to give out here too, which is like a full extraction kit
All right.
here. So we can give this out as well if you're interested.
Yeah, awesome.
This is
Well,
all free.
yeah, well,
So
we'll definitely put the link in the show notes and we'll share it on social. This is great. Thanks so much, Max. If somebody does want to get a hold of you, is this the best way to
uh,
find you?
yeah, this or my LinkedIn. I'm always on there. Yeah, I think that's where we're connected the most too, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
or email is great. Yeah,
Yeah. I love your content on LinkedIn. So
awesome. Thank
cool.
you.
Thank
This
you.
is awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having me. I love talking
absolutely.
about this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up this episode, for all the marketers out there and small business owners, you know what we believe. AI really is the future of how you're going to operate, especially in your marketing department. So if you're curious on like how to set up your strategy, what you should be looking at, how to meet great partners like Max, reach out to Rebl. We know we've got the contacts and we know how to get you started. Thank you so much.